You ever been to one of those creepy carnivals that pop up in town every so often? You know the type I'm talking about, with creaky rides, faded signs, and a general vibe that makes your skin crawl. Well, I've got a story about one of those places and a carnival worker who gave me the creeps like no other. It all started on a sweltering summer evening when my friends and I decided to check out the carnival that had mysteriously appeared in our small town overnight. We were in for a night of cheap thrills and deep-fried everything, or so we thought. As we strolled through the carnival grounds, the flashing lights and carnival music created an eerie atmosphere that sent shivers down my spine. Maybe it was the way the neon lights reflected off the faces of the patrons, making them look like ghosts. This place gives me the heebie-jeebies. We decided to start with the Ferris wheel, hoping it would provide a bird's-eye view of the entire carnival. As we waited in line, I couldn't help but notice a carnival worker lingering nearby. He was unlike the others, who wore colorful uniforms and fake smiles. This guy, though, he was different. Dressed in a tattered black hoodie and jeans, his face hidden beneath a hood, he seemed out of place. What's this guy's deal? As we boarded the rickety Ferris wheel, the mysterious worker gave me a nod, his eyes concealed in the shadow of his hood. It was as if he was silently inviting me to join him on the ride. But I brushed it off as paranoia. Maybe I'm just imagining things. The Ferris wheel slowly ascended, offering a panoramic view of the carnival grounds below. But as we reached the top, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I turned to my friends, trying to make light of my unease. "Guys, doesn't this place give you the creeps?" They laughed it off, attributing my anxiety to an overactive imagination. But I knew something was wrong, and it had everything to do with that enigmatic carnival worker. I can't shake the feeling that something's not right. When we disembarked from the Ferris wheel, the mysterious worker was waiting for me at the exit. He beckoned me over, his hooded head tilting slightly. My heart pounded as I approached him, the words escaping my mouth before I could stop them. "What do you want?" He didn't answer with words. Instead, he extended a gloved hand, revealing a deck of weathered tarot cards. Without a word, he gestured for me to pick a card. This is getting weirder by the second. I reluctantly chose a card, and the carnival worker turned it over, revealing the image of a grim reaper. A chill ran down my spine as he spoke in a low, raspy voice. "Death." My friends exchanged uneasy glances, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. The carnival worker's eyes bored into mine, and I could see a strange intensity within them. "What kind of carnival game is this?" He then whispered something that sent shivers down my spine, words that felt like a curse. "You're next." With that, he disappeared into the shadows, leaving me trembling and bewildered. My friends urged me to forget about it, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that something ominous had been set in motion. This can't be real. It's just a carnival act, right? As the night wore on, I tried to enjoy the carnival, but the encounter with the mysterious worker had left me on edge. I kept glancing over my shoulder, half expecting to see him lurking in the shadows. I need to relax. It's just a carnival, after all. But as we reached the carnival's haunted house attraction, I couldn't escape the feeling that we were being drawn towards something sinister. The facade of the haunted house was weathered and decrepit, and an unsettling mist clung to its entrance. My friends dared me to go inside, and I reluctantly agreed. What's the worst that can happen, right? The interior of the haunted house was a labyrinth of dimly lit corridors, eerie sounds, and unexpected scares. I could hear my friends' nervous laughter echoing in the darkness, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. I knew I shouldn't have come in here. As we neared the end of the haunted house, the atmosphere grew increasingly oppressive. A cold breeze swept through the corridor, and the walls seemed to close in on us. And then I saw him, the mysterious carnival worker, standing in the shadows, his hooded figure illuminated by a flickering candle. "What is he doing here?" He raised a bony finger, pointing it at me. My heart raced as I realized that the Grim Reaper card from earlier was coming to life before my eyes. This can't be happening. It's just a coincidence. But it wasn't a coincidence. As the carnival worker approached, his eyes gleaming with malevolence, I knew that this was no ordinary carnival. It was a place of dark rituals and sinister games, and I had unwittingly become a part of it. I have to get out of here. In a panic, I turned and fled, my friends following close behind. We burst out of the haunted house and into the night, the carnival workers' chilling laughter echoing in our ears. "We need to get out of here. This place is cursed." We never returned to that carnival, and we never saw the mysterious worker again. But the memory of that night haunted me for years, a reminder that sometimes the line between the ordinary and the supernatural is thinner than we'd like to believe. I can't explain what happened that night. It still gives me nightmares. And so, my friend, there you have it, a story of a creepy carnival worker who turned a night of innocent fun into a nightmare of the supernatural. It's a tale that still sends shivers down my spine, a reminder that the darkness is never far away, even in the most unexpected places. Be careful when you visit a carnival. You never know who or what you might encounter. You ever been to one of those creepy carnivals that pop up in town every so often? You know the type I'm talking about, with creaky rides, faded signs, and a general vibe that makes your skin crawl. Well, I've got a story about one of those places, a creepy carnival worker who gave me the creeps like no other, and a twist that left me questioning reality. It all began when my friends and I decided to visit this peculiar carnival that had suddenly appeared on the outskirts of our town. It was one of those impromptu gatherings of rusty rides, rickety game booths, and cotton candy vendors. Hey, why not? It's not like we have anything better to do tonight. As we walked through the entrance, I couldn't help but notice a strange-looking carnival worker. He stood out from the rest, not because of his uniform, but because of his unsettling appearance. Dressed in tattered clothes and a faded cap, he had a twisted smile that sent shivers down my spine. That guy looks like he just stepped out of a horror movie. My friends laughed off my unease, attributing it to the creepy atmosphere of the carnival. But something about that worker's eyes, those dark, piercing eyes, made me uneasy. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. We decided to try our luck at some of the games. The carnival was full of them, from ring toss to shooting galleries. But every time I glanced around, I spotted the same creepy worker, watching us with a sinister grin. Is he following us? As we played various games, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being observed. It was as if that worker was always lurking nearby, his eyes fixed on me. This is getting ridiculous. Maybe I should say something. I approached my friends and mentioned the strange worker's constant presence. They brushed it off, thinking I was exaggerating. Come on, it's just a carnival worker. What's the worst that could happen? But I couldn't let it go. I decided to confront the worker, to ask him why he was so fixated on us. As I approached him, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the labyrinthine alleys of the carnival. My heart raced as I followed him, determined to get some answers. I need to know what's going on. I finally caught up to him in a dimly lit corner of the carnival. He was standing beside a faded weathered tent, its entrance adorned with a sign that read, "Fortunes Told." He turned to me, that twisted smile still on his face. "What do you want?" I stammered, trying to find the right words, but he interrupted me by pointing toward the tent. "You want answers? Go inside." I hesitated, unsure of what to do next, but something about the whole situation felt off, like I had stumbled into a dark mystery. This is crazy, but maybe I should go inside and see what happens. With a deep breath, I entered the tent. It was dimly lit, with colorful drapes and strange symbols painted on the walls. In the center of the tent sat an old woman, her eyes cloudy and distant. She beckoned me closer, her voice a low, haunting whisper. "Sit, child." I took a seat across from her, my heart pounding in my chest. She began to speak, her words cryptic and unsettling. She talked about fate, about choices, and about a darkness that loomed over me. This is insane. What is she talking about? As she continued to speak, her voice seemed to echo in my mind. It was as if she was inside my head, unraveling my thoughts and fears. This can't be real. It's just some kind of carnival act, right? But then, she said something that sent a chill down my spine. She mentioned a name that I had never spoken to anyone, not even my closest friends. It was a name I had kept buried deep within me, a name that held a secret from my past. How does she know that name? This is impossible. Terrified and confused, I rushed out of the tent, back into the carnival grounds. My friends were waiting for me, concern etched on their faces. They had seen me enter the tent, but they couldn't hear what had transpired inside. I need to get out of here. This place is messing with my head. As we made our way toward the exit, I couldn't help but glance over my shoulder. The creepy carnival worker was there, still watching us with that eerie grin. It was as if he knew something about me, something that I couldn't even comprehend. I can't shake this feeling that I'm being watched. But just as we were about to leave, my friends burst into laughter. I turned to see what had caught their attention, and there he was, the creepy carnival worker, taking a bow as a hidden camera crew emerged from the shadows. What's going on here? As it turned out, my friends had orchestrated the entire thing. They had hired actors to play the part of the mysterious carnival worker and the fortune teller, all in an elaborate prank to mess with me. I can't believe they went to such lengths just to freak me out. I was both relieved and embarrassed, my heart still racing from the surreal experience. My friends couldn't stop laughing, and I had to admit, it was a pretty elaborate prank. I can't believe I fell for it. And so, my friend, there you have it, a story of a creepy carnival worker who turned out to be nothing more than a prank by my friends. It was a twist I never saw coming, a reminder that sometimes reality can be stranger and more unsettling than fiction. I guess I'll have to get them back one day. You ever been to one of those old run-down carnivals? You know, the kind that pops up overnight in a desolate field, where the flickering neon lights and eerie music create an atmosphere so unsettling it's like you've stepped into another dimension. Well, I stumbled upon one of those a few years back, and let me tell you, it was a nightmarish experience I won't soon forget. I was driving down a long, empty stretch of highway on a road trip to who knows where when I saw it. A flickering sign with faded letters that spelled out Carnival. Now, I'm not one to pass up an opportunity for some cheap thrills, so I veered off the road and followed the dimly lit path that led to the carnival grounds. As I entered, the smell of stale popcorn and cotton candy wafted through the air, mixing with the acrid scent of engine oil and something else I couldn't quite put my finger on. The place was practically deserted, save for a few haggard-looking individuals milling about, their faces shrouded in shadows. I figured it must be the end of the night, or maybe the carnival was on its last legs. That's when I saw him, the creepiest carnival worker I'd ever laid eyes on. He was a tall, lanky guy with greasy jet black hair that hung limply over his forehead. His skin was so pale it looked almost translucent, and his eyes, well, they were like two black pits, devoid of any emotion. I couldn't help but stare at him as he worked his booth. It was one of those games where you had to shoot water into a clown's mouth to make a balloon inflate. The prizes, tattered stuffed animals that had seen better days. But this guy, he was so damn good at it. It was like he had some supernatural ability to manipulate the water stream with precision. I watched as a young couple stepped up to play the game. The guy handed them a water gun, and with a flick of his wrist, he signaled them to start. They aimed their streams at the clown's mouth, but it was no use. The balloons remained deflated. The guy just stood there, a sinister grin slowly spreading across his face. It was then that I noticed something even more unsettling. The couple's expressions were changing, their faces contorting into grotesque masks of fear and confusion. They weren't having fun, they were terrified. The woman dropped the water gun and began to back away, but the carnival worker moved with unnatural speed, closing the distance between them in a matter of seconds. And then, all hell broke loose. The guy lunged at the couple, his fingers elongating into sharp, bony claws. He tore into them with a ferocity that defied belief. Blood sprayed everywhere as they screamed in agony, but their cries were drowned out by the relentless cacophony of the carnival's music. I was frozen in place, unable to tear my eyes away from the gruesome scene unfolding before me. The carnival worker finished his horrific deed, and as he stood there, bathed in the crimson aftermath, he turned and looked right at me. That's when I knew I had to run. I sprinted through the carnival grounds, my heart pounding in my chest, and the distant echoes of screams and maniacal laughter ringing in my ears. It was a maze of horrors, with each turn revealing another grotesque tableau of violence and madness. I stumbled upon a dilapidated farmhouse, its entrance beckoning me like a Simon's call. I had no other choice. I rushed inside, the darkness swallowing me whole. The air was thick with the stench of decay, and the narrow, twisting corridors seemed to stretch on forever. I had no idea where I was going, but I couldn't stop. The carnival worker was on my tail, his footsteps echoing ominously in the darkness. I could hear him muttering to himself, his voice a discordant symphony of madness. Suddenly, I emerged into a cavernous chamber, its walls covered in grotesque, leering clown faces. In the center of the room, I saw a flickering light, like a beacon of hope. I sprinted toward it, not daring to look back. But just as I reached the source of the light, the ground beneath me gave way, and I plummeted into darkness. I landed hard on a cold, damp surface, my limbs aching from the impact. As I struggled to my feet, I realized I was in a hidden underground passage, a labyrinth beneath the carnival. I could hear the carnival worker's manic laughter from above, growing fainter as he moved farther away. I knew I had to find a way out of this nightmarish maze, but every turn seemed to lead me deeper into the darkness. Hours, or maybe even days, passed as I stumbled through the underground labyrinth. My clothes were torn, my body battered, and my mind was on the brink of collapse. I had no way of knowing if I was getting closer to freedom or if I was just wandering further into the carnival's twisted depths. And then I saw it. A dim, flickering light in the distance, like a glimmer of hope. I followed it, my hope reignited, but as I drew closer, I realized it wasn't a way out at all. It was a small, underground chamber, and at its center stood the carnival worker, his eyes fixed on me. In that moment, I knew there was no escape. I had been drawn into his nightmarish world, and now I was his captive audience. The carnival worker's laughter echoed in the chamber as he stepped forward, his elongated fingers reaching out toward me. I won't describe the horrors that followed. Suffice it to say, it was a night of unspeakable terror, a descent into madness that left me scared in ways I can never fully express. And now, as I write these words, I can feel his presence lingering in the shadows, waiting for the next unsuspecting soul to stumble upon his carnival of horrors. So, dear reader, if you ever come across a flickering sign that beckons you toward a desolate field, heed my warning and steer clear. For in the heart of that abandoned carnival, a nightmare awaits, and once you enter, there may be no way out.